Hi, welcome to week 3 of History 711, where this week's discussion board topic is at the core of this class's um, movement, discussing the difference between liberty and freedom. When we talk about liberty versus freedom, um, a lot of the times, as when we're thinking about liberty and freedom, we often intertwine the two terms together. However, when looking deeper and discussing the difference in liberty versus freedom, we see there are many differences between the two terms. Um, when we think of liberty in a philosophical meaning, um, we talk about liberty involving um, both free will and determination, or the ability to do as one pleases under some restraints of rule and regulation. However, when we talk about freedom, um, we also see that freedom falls under liberty, but it's in a broad, in more of a broad sense that may represent a total lack of restraint of those rules and regulations. So, looking back at some of the sources that we've looked at over the past couple of weeks, one that I found interesting was the article Cicero, Roman Republicanism, and the Contested Meaning of Libertas. And when I looked at that article, the thing that stood out to me is Machiavelli, Cicero, and other Roman historians. To them, freedom means more independence from the will of others. So when we see the very roots of freedom, tracking it all the way back to the Roman Republic, we think we start to see that idea, that ideology of freedom versus liberty starting to separate, and these early philosophers already starting to categorize the two in different categories. Um, when we look at these early documents, we can see a vast contrast in liberty versus freedom. For instance, in the Magna Carta, um, we see inside the document where it says, "We grant to God and confirm by this our present charter for ourselves and our heirs to be free and to have all its rights fully and liberties entirely." The people understood that in order to live uh, in a free lifestyle, per se, they must obtain that liberty in order to maintain their freedom. As we look forward to our government today here in the U.S., it's amazing to see what the founding fathers were able to do and create a system that would provide that liberty and freedom for centuries to come. Um, they look to early philosophers to help them create this system of government that we know today, that provides for that liberty and freedom. We see in Jefferson's, of course, the Declaration of Independence. He said that we're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Again, there he says that it is man's natural right to for liberty to be bestowed upon them. And under that liberty, freedom comes, but freedom isn't always given. It does come at a price, as we know here in the United States. It's never been given to us, but we see throughout American history the struggle to maintain that freedom all the way from the very beginning. One of the last sources that I looked at, or one of the last two sources that I looked at for this week, I liked what De Juvenal says there in our textbook on power. He says free men are capable of both of ruling themselves and others. I find that quote interesting because, um, our founders, them being both free, earning their freedom through the fight there in the American Revolution, they understood that in order for freedom to exist, there also had to be a price to pay. We still have to pay that price here in modern 21st century America in order to have those freedoms. We have to live under a certain rule, regulation of law in order to maintain those freedoms. Because should that rule of law dissipate, then our freedoms dissipate along with those rules and laws. And then from Christianity and the Common Law, an article by Augusto Zimmerman, he says that Christianity philosophy holds that there is a natural or divine reason for the existence of basic laws, and that these laws stand above human-made legislation, thus reflecting principles according to which everyone ought to live. When we think about that divine reasoning, I look back to the experiment, as we call it, that the founders created at the beginning of the country. They were uncertain if this liberty versus freedom thing would work in a new country. They had just moved away from a monarchical government where the king ruled by divine intervention. And under divine right, and then they're coming to a new country saying that men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So everyone has those liberties and freedoms, and they created this experiment that could have worked, could not have possibly worked, but here in 2020 now, we see that the experiment is still working. Do we have flaws in the system? Yes, we do. We see that even up into modern day periods with the riots that are going on today. However, the experiment that they created that would test the waters of our liberties and freedoms, is still going strong today. I hope you find this discussion of interest. I certainly do. While it's not a topic that is most comfortable with me, I'm learning a lot through this course. So I'm learning right alongside each of you, and I hope that you find some of this information from today's discussion helpful. Thank you for watching, and blessings as you continue your journey in this course.